Hello everyone, welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live on Monday and Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure, all Bookmap limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure, trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss. It is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Hope everyone is doing okay in this wild volatility. We'll get to the live market as quickly as possible. Just very quickly again, here's my contact information. The best way to get in touch with me is through Discord. My name on Discord is Doug P. There's also an Options-Doug chat channel in Bookmap Discord. And I'm also on X. My name there is at Doug Pless. As you all know, here are the key tenets to my approach to trading. I believe that options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures. And that certainly applies to the equity index futures like the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100 and the large cap tech stocks like the Mag 7 stocks. And of course, for the S&P 500, SPX is the underlying index. And for the Nasdaq, the NDX is the underlying index. And I focus on those levels and the ES and NQ. The focus of my presentation today will be options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. And add one other thing to that, breaking news. I have a two-step process for trading. The first is planning. I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned in the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis. And of course, the thesis is not only so relevant today in this in these days of hourly breaking news. And the second step in my process is execution. I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis and for setups. Questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel as well as the chat and YouTube for your questions and comments. Please feel free to post. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Hello, Stephen Slotarazi. Welcome. Glad you're here. Here's my agenda for today, Wednesday, April 9th. First of all, I want to go over news items, economic data, and events for today as well as the rest of the week. And it's been another action-packed day. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I'll review some setups from earlier today. Then I'll get to the live market as quickly as I can. And when I get to the live market, if anyone has any stocks they want me to take a look at, please let me know and I'll be glad to do that. All right, let's get started with news items. Go to the live market. So today, the FOMC minutes do come out at 2 p.m. We'll keep an eye out for that. Certainly that will not be anything like what just happened. I'll talk about that in just a moment. Then for the rest of the week, CPI data comes out tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on our Friday, PPI data at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and then 10 a.m. on Friday, Michigan Consumer Sentiment. All right, let's take a look at what has been happening just recently. Let's go to this financial juice. And the breaking news came out. First of all, Trump is raising the China tariff to 125% now. So this yesterday, Trump announced additional tariffs, retaliatory tariffs on China. Then China also introduced retaliatory tariffs this morning. So Trump upped the game again just this afternoon, and then right after that announced this pause 90-day pause. So far, no indication that it is fake news. So a 90-day pause on reciprocal and 10% tariffs, and that applies to non-retaliating countries. And earlier today, I believe the EU did announce retaliatory tariffs. So it's not quite clear who that applies to, but the market certainly likes that. All right, so that's the breaking news, the 90-day pause. All right, let's go back to Bookmap now. Take a look at ES futures, and the rally continues. Note the looking at SPX levels. 5,000 was the launching point, and so far, SPX is now heading toward 5,400. So far, over almost a 400-point rally in SPX and ES in a matter of minutes. And that was started about 119, just like Financial Juice indicated. And right now it is 136. All right, so about 17 minutes so far, almost a 400-point rally in the S&P 500. So let's go back and look at a summary of events today. Sorry about the zooming. All right, back at 7 a.m., that's when China announced retaliatory tariffs. And the S&P 500 dropped down to around 4,900, and then the SPX 4875 level acted as support. Rally up to 50-50. Some chop and consolidation around 5,000. Then the news came out, and this is the looks like the upper weekly expected move for ES. So right now, ES trading up above its upper daily expected move. And it looks like that dashed purple line is probably the upper weekly expected move. We'll see more when that error message goes away. All right, so that is the S&P 500 reaction to news today. Tariff announcements. All right, let's take a step back. Look at the SPX on a higher time frame. This is a 1 year, 1 day chart. Tariff announcement last Wednesday, big gap down. This is the regular trading hour support level right around SPX 4835. Again, this is SPX 1 day, 1 year chart. And remember, we talked about on Monday before the cash open in the extended trading hours pre-market, SPX traded down to 4,800. And remember also, I talked about that 4,800 level as support, 5,400 as resistance, and SPX has almost made it in 3 days, almost made it from that lower support level at 4,800, almost up to 5,400 a day. All right, let's take a look at a 30-day 1 hour chart. Again, sticking with SPX, the underlying index. There's that 4835 support level. Regular trading hours, again, 4,800 before the cash open. All right, let's take a look at the levels on this chart. The dashed purple lines are showing the lower and upper weekly expected move. That's based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from last Friday. Those levels remain in place for the entire week. Then the dashed blue lines are showing the lower and upper Daily expected move, also based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from yesterday. I do post those levels in Discord every day the evening before. All right, do the expected moves, and now SPX trading well above the upper daily expected move. All right, let's take a look at the spot gamma levels on this chart. Those are the dark red lines. These are based on gamma weighted open interest. They're provided to Spotgamma subscribers. I'm going to point out the key daily levels. First of all, the put wall at 4,700. That's the strike with large net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. And the next level up is 5,000. That's this L1 level at 5,000. That is the absolute gamma strike. That's a strike with large absolute positive and negative gamma. And way above is the volatility trigger remains at 58.25. That is Spotgamma's proprietary volatility and gamma flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, market makers have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure, and that is certainly the case today and in recent weeks. Then the call wall is at 6,000. That's a strike with the largest net positive gamma that can be expected to act as resistance. All right, those levels all remain unchanged from yesterday. And yesterday, the put wall did drop down lower and the call wall moved higher. And again, the levels remain in place for no changes from yesterday. And then also for the SPY, 490 is the absolute gamma strike. That shifted lower from yesterday. All right, let's wrap up our view of SPX with a look at a 1 minute chart. SPX 1 minute chart. It looked like so far today relative calm compared with the last couple of days. So Monday, there's that fake news. White House says fake news about a 90-day pause. And then yesterday, looked like a gap up and a bit of rally in the morning. And SPX dropped from right around 52.60, 65 down to 49, like 49.10 in the course of a day. That was SPY 525 down to 490 after hours. Huge drop, 35-point drop in SPY. Normally a drop like that I would think would take days or weeks instead of hours. All right, then again, news today, 90-day pause, huge rally from 5,000 to 53.80, 380-point rally in a matter of a few minutes. All right, let's get back to Bookmap now. Zoom in. And we'll take a look at the what options traders are doing in just a minute. So that is the SES. Let's take a look at Nasdaq. And I pointed this out on Monday. I'll point it out again. These red lines are 50-point increments on NQ. And of course, each 50-point increment on NQ is worth $1,000. So a rally from right around 17,400, 450 up to 18,650. And again, a matter of minutes. Wild market. All right, let's take a look at the underlying index charts for Nasdaq. That's QQQ. Looks like I need to change my levels again. All right, so for NQ 450, let's see what that is. Give me just a moment. QQQ 450, large gamma 2. That's on the upside. And then there are combo levels down below 410. So from the regular trading hours, QQQ has gone from maybe 408 up to 456. Huge move in QQQ. Let's take a look at NDX. For NDX, combo level support, 17,160, 169, that's a combo 4 level. And then 18,327, 0 gamma level. Volatility trigger still up above at 19,500. All right, so that is NDX, back to QQQ. And we'll take a look at setups in just a few minutes. All right, let's wrap up our positional analysis by taking a look at gamma. And very quickly, market makers position on the gamma curve at the beginning of the day. Gamma notional all negative. And I would say for the market movement, kind of mildly negative, but definitely negative, indicating market makers are trading with the price dash their delta exposure. All right, let's take a look at a real-time view of gamma now with a trace tool available to Spotgamma subscribers. Red shading, light red shading, indicates negative gamma. SPX trading well above the Spotgamma implied one-day move high. My expected moves are based on the closing price from the previous day, and this expected move, implied move, is based on the opening price of SPX. And for SPX, again, looked like kind of a consolidation day until the news came out at 119. All right, let's take a look at some setups now. Let's go to the hero tool. This is available to Spotgamma subscribers. We'll start with the SP 500, and there are two signals that we can take a look at for the SP 500. First of all, this is the index signal, S&P 500 index signal, and it has been bullish today, even before this news came out. Let's shift to equities, which has also been bullish. Move up in the morning, then consolidation, then blast off higher. We'll see what traders have been doing with puts and calls. So they've been buying puts and selling buying calls and selling puts. Calls shown with the orange line, and puts shown with the blue line. That's the equities. Same with the index signal, only now it looks like call buyers are really driving price higher. Let's go back to the total, check these numbers. All right, so this delta notional value at 5 billion, that's pretty large. Definitely larger than yesterday. Let's check equities. Delta notional just a little bit less than 3 billion. So that's also a decent sized number. All right, let's get back to the live market now. Let's go back to trace one more time. Take a look at the stability index. Stability index is pretty low. It's been at 8% all day. And there's some negative gamma, pocket of negative gamma there, large negative gamma bar at 53.10. Next one up at 54.80. All right, when I was preparing this morning for this webinar, I certainly had no idea this was going to happen. Although I was looking for high volatility, low liquidity, wild swings, just like the last few days, and that is certainly the case today. All right, so let's take a look. We saw in the hero signals, bullish opening drive, then a lot of consolidation. Looked like traders were starting to take positive delta, starting to buy again. You can see the green volume dots coming in, break out about 12:45. Retest of the 5,000 level, and that is SPX 5,000. And then up trading right around 53.50 SPX. And note there is a difference in price between ES and SPX. And today it's anywhere from, earlier today it was 30 to 32. Right now it's trading closer to 34, 35. Normally it's much more stable than that, but trading looks like maybe 33 to 36 today, right now. I'm using 32. So I'm showing 5,000 SPX at 50.32. Really doesn't matter with this kind of movement. Just a general point of reference. All right, let's zoom in on the current price action. Large traders fading this move with iceberg orders. That's shown by the falling light blue line. So large traders selling into strength. Pretty typical behavior. Looks like there are a lot of aggressive buyers, a lot of green volume dots, rising cumulative volume delta. That's the magenta to dark blue line. Also buy stop orders, fueling the move higher. Now some consolidation around SPY 530 and SPX 53.50. That's actually ES 53.50 and SPY 530, large gamma 3 level. All right, back to Hero. So again, summary for the day, bullish opening drive up to about just after 10. And that was about the time that the indices dropped sharply lower yesterday. Remember, let's go back to our SPX chart. remember the price action from yesterday, this drop just after 10. Yesterday I was thinking potentially the same thing, but it turned out that the SPX found a bottom, started to move higher, then blasted higher. All right, so no 10 a.m. reversal today or anything near the magnitude of yesterday. And this is S&P equities, which are in agreement with the S&P 500 index signal. All right, let's move on to Nasdaq. Check the Nasdaq signal. It was not that clear this morning, but now very clear this afternoon. Traders started taking positive delta options positions right around noon, and then the Nasdaq responded. Let's take a look at Mag 7. Much more clear signal, much more in line with price throughout the day. Again, bullish opening drive and consolidation beginning just after 10 a.m. and then continuing to move higher. All right, to Nasdaq NQ futures. So far, maybe a 1,400 point rally in Nasdaq again in a matter of minutes. We can zoom in on this. Dial down these volume dots. All right, so NQ also up at its upper weekly expected move. And continuing to move higher. All right, let's take a look at some stocks. Anyone have any questions? Anything they want me to take a look at? All right, let's take a look at some stocks. Let's go through the Mag 7s, see how they're doing. Apple's been bullish all day. Bullish opening drive. And Apple continued to move up until about 10:30, then consolidation, then took off with everything else. Let me tone down the volume dots just a little bit. Let's see what options traders are doing in Apple. We shift to puts and calls. Go to Apple. So this morning, again, bullish opening drive, traders buying calls, selling puts. Then they continued to sell puts. And that, they took their foot off the gas and the call buyers came in right after the news announcement. All right, so that's Apple. Let's go back to Bookmap. Know how the high liquidity stacks up at the zeros and the fives. Those are limit sell orders in the order book, acting as magnets for price targets. Let's take a look at Amazon. Similar picture. Note there were a lot of aggressive buyers, especially after after 11 a.m. You can see all the green volume dots, rising cumulative volume delta. Let's see what options traders are doing in Amazon. Let's zoom in just a little bit so we can get a closer look at this. So this morning there was a bullish opening drive, call buyers, and then this call peak. You know, I am on a using a beta version of Hero here, so that it's hard to, for some reason it won't hold that zoom level, but I was going to mention this call peak right here. Can often be a reversal pattern or indicate potential, anyway, a potential reversal in hedging flow, in this case from positive delta to negative delta. In this case for Amazon, just a little bit of a consolidation. As the aggressive buyers came in, again, remember we saw that rising cumulative volume delta and the green volume dots. Let's take a look at Google. There wasn't much this morning. Kind of a choppy signal, really consolidation in Google until the move higher at 119. Move on to Meta. Same thing with Meta, consolidation most of the morning, then a sharp move higher. At 119. Take a look at Microsoft, and a gradual move higher in the for put sellers and call buyers, and really started to ramp up about 11:50, 12 o'clock. Let's take a look at Bookmap. Take a look at these stocks. Let's go on to Google. Not much going on in the morning. Then again, blast off 119. Meta. Looks like I need to adjust my lines again. Meta trading at about a 10-point range this morning. There's Microsoft. Kind of a mild uptrend this morning. Started to move higher really about 11 o'clock after a pullback at 11. Started to move higher. And let's take a look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA, a lot of aggressive buyers in this morning. You can see all the green volume dots, rising cumulative volume delta. Buyers came in about noon. And again, high liquidity at the zeros and the fives. Limit sell orders in the order book. Acting as price targets, magnets for price. Let's go back to Hero. NVIDIA comparative chop in the morning. And now NVIDIA moving higher like everything else. Call buyers, put sellers. Move on to Tesla. Bullish opening drive this morning. Traders buying calls, selling puts. Consolidation around the 230 key gamma strike. Then again, blast higher like everything else. Call buyers, put sellers. Let's go back to Bookmap. That's a lot of lines. Let me, should have turned off the intermediate lines. Bullish opening drive, resistance right around 235. Chop up and down around the 230 level, and then blast off like everything else. Next, AMD. This is one I was going to show this morning. Nice. It was, for today, a nice bullish opening drive. A lot of aggressive buyers. You can see all the green volume dots from the cash open, rising cumulative volume delta, and that continues. A lot of aggressive buyers in AMD. It has been in a downtrend for quite some time. Let's see what options traders have been doing in AMD. And iBomb, welcome, glad you're here. Says could talk a little bit more about QQQ via Hero. Yeah, we'll take a look at QQQ. I normally look at the combined signals for the indexes. We'll get back to that in just a minute. So AMD, let me zoom in just a little bit this morning. So this morning, AMD was driven by put sellers. That's shown by the rising blue line. And note that AMD continued to move higher after most stocks stopped right after 10 a.m. The indexes stopped right after 10 a.m. NVIDIA moved higher. And then again, like everything else, took off 119. I don't have Broadcom and Bookmap today. Let's take a look at Robinhood. Oops. Consolidation in Robinhood for most of the morning. Blast higher. Take a look at Palantir. Same thing, a little bit of a bullish opening drive. At 10:30 there was a peak. Oh, I'm sorry, 10 a.m. there was a peak. As Palantir traded up above the 80 key gamma strike. And Slaughter says, VIX came down, put Vanna Rally. Yeah, sure. I'll talk about that in just a minute. So this drop in VIX. In this environment, traders are long puts, market makers are short puts. They have to sell futures to hedge their delta exposure. Then as price rises, implied volatility drops. Market makers can buy back their short futures. And that, again, a negative gamma environment, market makers are trading with price to hedge their delta exposure. And that tends to drive price both up and down. All right, there's Palantir. Let's go to Robinhood. Same thing. Consolidation in the morning, then blast off. 119. Palantir. A little bit of a bullish opening drive. Blast off. All right, iBomb wants to take a look at QQQ. Yeah, we can do that. I normally look at going to have to add more lines here. So there's QQQ. A little bit of a bullish opening drive chop, then a blast higher. And we'll go to Hero. So for Hero, there are, for the Nasdaq, actually 4 signals that we can take a look at. First is QQQ. So there's QQQ. Traders buying calls, selling puts today in QQQ. So that's one of the index components. And the other is NDX. And this also has an influence on the Nasdaq. So I'm normally look at this Nasdaq combined signal. And it's mostly driven by QQQ. Let's go to the total signal. Let's step back. Close full screen. So you can see this Nasdaq signal is a combined signal of NDX and QQQ. So this is normally what I look at instead of looking at just QQQ. So IBOM Inc., I hope that makes sense. And then also, let's go back to full screen. We'll take a look. So also we can take a look at the MAG 7. I also look at this for NASDAQ. Since these 7 stocks have such a large influence on both the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. So compare this notional value there, 2.27. Let's compare that with S&P equities, which is 3.52. So the in this case, MAG 7 making up a little bit or around half of the total equity signal here. All right, let's go back to full screen now. Actually, a little bit over half. So 2.27 to 4.5, so over half of the total equity signal made up by the MAG 7. All right, let's take a look now. Let's go back and take a look at the current market. Does anyone have any stocks, anything they want me to take a look at? All right, so the S&P equities continue to move higher. S&P index signal. Let's take a look at VIX. Actually, let's take a look at give me just a second. Well, that's still showing. Looking at the fixed strike matrix, it looks like it's still showing rising volatility. So let's check. Let's check VIX. Go to this 1 minute chart. Let's check VIX. So dropping from a high, overnight high of 58 down to 37 now. So VIX, not an exact representation of volatility, but something interesting to look at. And we can go take a look at the indices page here. Take a look at the Vanna model. Zoom in on this. So what this chart is showing is market makers delta notional on the vertical axis, price on the horizontal axis. This is price for SPX. And there are 2 curves on this chart. The white curve, light gray curve, shows how market makers delta notional changes with changes in price only. And then the purple curve, that's what we want to take a look at, shows how market makers delta notional changes with changes in price and implied volatility. So as price increases, implied volatility drops, market makers' delta notional drops, and they can buy back their short futures. So let's check price. Let's check some prices now. So we know that launching point right before the move higher was right around. Interesting. This is not zoomed in very much. Not sure how to change the range on this. So right around 5,000. All right, there we go, 5,000. Up to prices. They're not shown on this chart in this range. 5,000 on up beyond. So market makers' delta notional has been dropping, and they can buy back their short futures. So that is a put Vanna rally. All right, let's go to live market now. Go back. Let's check trace. Consolidation between 5,300, 5,400. SP equities hero has leveled off now. Let's check the index hero signal. Still, the slope has changed. Also, overall, kind of slowing down now. Again, delta notional number pretty large, 6.2 billion. All right, let's go to Bookmap. Go to the SP 500. Let's zoom in on this now. Look at current price action. Darken up the heat map. So remember, on Monday we saw some pretty nice price action corresponding to the levels of liquidity shown on the heat map, like right here. Limit buy orders right around 53.65, acting as support. Buyers come in, front run that level. Looks like there were some sellers at right around 54.17. They pulled their orders. Also, the sellers at 54.30 pulled their orders. G-Money wants to take a look at Carvana. Yeah, we can do that. I don't have Carvana and Bookmap. We can take a look in Hero. Let's go back to Hero. Take a look at Carvana. Same as everything else. Consolidation this in the morning, and then Carvana blast off up to the, looks like it may be heading up to the 220 call wall. Not there yet. Traders have been selling puts all day. Then the call buyers came in when everything moved higher. IBOM wants to take a look at VIX futures. I don't have VIX futures and Bookmap. We can take a look at VIX here, just the VIX, not VIX futures. So you can see the drop in VIX at 119. And with that drop, traders were buying puts. Now it looks like they're selling puts. Buying puts shown by the falling blue line, then selling puts. That looks like a large block order there. Some large institution selling puts. Interesting, selling puts at when VIX is at 37. Normally, I would consider selling puts or put spreads at a VIX of 11 or 12. All right, let's go back to the total signal. Go back to the S&P 500. So S&P 500 definitely leveling off. Check the equity signal. Also leveling off. Let's check trace. And let's take a look at some of the other heat maps, delta pressure. So this view of delta pressure is typical for a negative gamma environment, where market makers are trading with price dash their delta exposure. So you can see down in this red area, and again, negative gamma, this is showing in this red that market makers will need to sell ES futures as price moves lower, and they can buy as price moves higher. So that's shown by the blue buying support above and red selling pressure below. Let's see if there's anything in charm. So charm is showing buying support, selling pressure due to time decay, the passage of time. Also shows potential pinning target. Right here, it looks like that's right at 5,300. Let's check on that. If price moves back lower. So yeah, that's right around 5,300. So that's showing blue buying support below, red selling pressure above. At 5,300, this strike with positive gamma there. Next, all the way up at 5,500. That's probably too high. Too high for today. All right, let's go back to gamma. All right, back to Bookmap now. Josiah says, excellent stream so far, Doug. Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind words. All right, so this liquidity came in at 54.15. Came in just after 120. Looks like traders now trading through that. Looks like maybe moved up. Zoom in a bit. More selling up above 54.20. Large traders still fading this move with iceberg orders, shown by the light blue line. But aggressive buyers still in, cumulative volume delta rising, stop orders fueling the move higher, and looks like breaking back up to the 5,400 level. All right, so now ES is broken up. Looks like trying to break out above the 5,400, SPX 5,400 level. Remember, those relationships are changing pretty rapidly today, so that may not be the exact level. I may be off by a couple of points. More sellers up above at ES 54.35, 54.40, and looks like they found resistance at the 54.35 level. At that level of liquidity. Next level of high liquidity is the ES 54.50 level. Let's go back and check Hero again. See if the options traders have picked things up again. Yeah, it looks like they have. Now our Hero is starting to tick up again. This is the equity signal. Check the index signal. Index signal still pretty flat. The equity signal now ticking up. You can see that a little bit more clearly in Hero. Dan K, welcome, glad you're here. Says, Doug, do you believe this rally can last or more of a one-day thing? Honestly, I have no idea. I would have to do some reading and review. The way this market has been moving, things change by the hour. So, who knows what news could come out overnight. But so far today, very bullish day, obviously. But it's, in this environment, it's just so hard to say how long this will last. But it looked like to me this morning that traders were looking for something like this. They were already, before this news came out, they were already long, taking either long positions or positive delta positions, selling puts and buying calls in stocks, certainly in the Mag 7 stocks. Let's take a look at a heat map in Thinkorswim. We'll go to the So this is the heat map for the S&P 500. Almost everything is green. Large cap tech, communication services, consumer discretionary, financials, industrials. Looks like really only the kind of defensive sectors like utilities and healthcare lagging a little bit. Huge bar today, huge green bar in SPX. Looks like making its way up to the upper weekly expected move. This is the upper weekly expected move for ES. And price is broken out above that level. And remember I mentioned that 54.50 liquidity. ES made it up to that level on no time. Hello, Hector. Welcome. Glad you're here. Long time no see. Glad you're back. So ES a little bit of a double bottom here, right around 54.20. Then slice through the liquidity levels up above to the higher liquidity at 54.50. earlier broke out of this consolidation. Up to the liquidity at 35.40, support at 54.20, then on up to 54.50. All right, so this is definitely what the market was looking for. Looks like they were getting prepared for it this morning, buying Mag 7 stocks and other stocks, buying calls, selling puts, and they got the wish. Let's go back to Financial Juice, check that one last time, see if there's anything else that came out. No, the 90-day pause applies to reciprocal and 10% tariffs for non-retaliating countries. And that's still on the headline banner there. Traders continue to take positive options delta positions. Slowed down a little bit in the index signal, but still rising in equities. All right, everyone, my time is up. I want to thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your questions and comments. Remember, CPI data, the FOMC minutes came out, and at 2, I don't think that was much of a factor today. And then remember, tomorrow, CPI data out at 8:30, and PPI on Friday, 8:30, and consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. All right, everyone, have a great afternoon, and I will see you next Monday. Thanks again. Bye.